Well, it's been 2 years since Congress passed what's known simply as Dodd-Frank, a huge piece of consumer legislation designed to prevent a big bank collapse. It also created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, an agency designed to keep your money safe. And our guests tonight on Capitol Insider, we're joined by Bill Bartmann, founder of Commercial Financial Services and author of Bailout Riches. Bill, good to see you.
Well, good to see you, Kevin.
All right, so 2 years later, a lot of people think that the banks are still too big. Do you think that Dodd-Frank needs a bit of a tune-up at this time?
Well, it does need a tune-up, at least in one regard, and that would be on the banking side. I think as we just saw with Chase, obviously Dodd-Frank didn't avoid that situation. So I think right now would be a great time to go back and look at Dodd-Frank and see what else needs to be done. Now, the part of Dodd-Frank that they did really well with is the CFPB, or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And you think of that as different than Wall Street. Think of that as over on the consumer side. Rich Cordray has done a superb job in the 1 year they've been up to literally become the new sheriff in town to protect consumers across America. And that's something we have not yet seen in 200 years of democracy.
The House Committee of Oversight and Government Reform met today, and the topic of discussion was, is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau restricting access to credit? Now, should they?
Are they? No, they are not restricting access to credit. I mean, it'd be like the medical profession 100 years ago and doctors saying, well, we really don't need licensing. Well, the doctors may not have thought they needed licensing, but the patients did. Well, so too with the credit situation in America. The banks are never going to agree that licensing is a good thing. But the consumers are the ones who end up on the short end of the stick, and they're the ones that need protection.
You've been very active in Oklahoma, your home state, on the topic of debt collection abuse. Tell us a little bit more about that, and how would you define that?
Sure. Well, I am in the debt collection business, and we have collected from 4.5 million customers. We've collected over $15 billion. We've done that without ever suing one customer one time. So we understand you really can get more with honey than vinegar, yet the industry doesn't seem to believe that. The industry thinks that you have to beat people into submission in order to get them to pay. And that is just patently wrong. And so we are on a crusade to convince the industry that they should be nicer, they should treat people with dignity and respect, they shouldn't be beating people into subjugation, and they literally should not be suing people when in fact a telephone conversation would resolve the debt.
And recently the AARP said that they support this. Why did they get involved?
Well, you know, AARP got involved for the obvious reason. One very large constituency in the debt collection arena these days are elderly people, are people who are over the age of 60 who thought they had retired, who thought that they had worked all of their life. They had now earned this golden retirement, only to find out that the money ran out, and they too now are behind in their bills. And when they get behind in their bills, they are almost easy victims to a debt collector. Because as we get older, and I'm 63, so I can speak to this with some authority.
You look good. You look good for 63.
As you get a bit older, you may lose some of your faculties, and so you can be taken advantage of easier. So think of your parents or your grandparents, and think of, you would know better if somebody called you up and started yelling and screaming. You would know what to do.
Right.
But maybe they don't know what to do, and maybe they are so awkward and uncomfortable in the environment, they pay a debt they really don't even owe.
You are making a visit to the nation's capital. It's a brief trip, and I understand you met with Florida Congressman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
That is correct.
Could you explain what you discussed, or is that behind closed doors?
Well, no, I meet with congressmen and senators on a regular basis to talk about legislation, and in this case, Congresswoman Schultz is in favor of the very same things I'm in favor of, protecting consumers. So it was a very pleasant conversation about how do we make sure that people are not being abused in America.
And you're in an agency that obviously has collected $1 billion in debt. Why get involved in regulating this industry now?
It's when you see an abuse up close and personal that you kind of take it personal. And for the 15 years that we were in the business of collecting from people, we thought everybody was treating them the way we were, only to wake up one day and realize we were the exception. And I don't say that we deserve a special medal or a pat on the head, but we found out that most of the people in the debt collection industry were doing it wrong, and they were abusing people, and that just offends me. It offends my sense of justice. It offends my sense of what we're supposed to be doing in this great country, where, you know, there's a credit system. I'm in favor of the credit system, where you should lend to people prudently, and they have a duty and a responsibility to pay you back. But when sometimes that goes sideways, that doesn't mean you should be uncivilized in how you conduct your relationship with that person. And that's what I want to create.
All right, Bill Bartmann, thank you very much for your
You're very
time.